Hey everybody, this is Scott Swinchock. Welcome to the Sink or Swin podcast. Over the course of the year, we're going to be bringing on quite a few of my friends who happen to be subject matter experts on various financial topics, and hopefully we're going to provide you with some relevant information over the course of this year. Thanks again, and welcome to the Sink or Swin podcast. Hey everyone, we're back with another Sink or Swin podcast, and I have my good friend Wayne Uzarski here. He's the district sales coordinator with Aflac, and we've known each other for probably about 20 years, but I think it goes far beyond that.
Right.
With the mutual contacts and the people we know.
Similar circles.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk a little bit about supplemental insurance and how it can benefit you and fill in the gaps in your life if anything were to happen. I think, Wayne, you've been doing this, your pretty much entire professional career?
Yeah, since right out of college. I started in the summer of 2002. So July, it's going to be 23 years. So
oh, wow.
Pretty much dedicated my life to it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember, our first interactions, for the most part, were down at the local bowling alley where I used to, kick Wayne's teeth in quite regularly. So we don't have to, talk about that much. But, I think before we knew each other professionally, it's safe to say that we knew each other in a more social manner, right?
Sure, 100%. Yeah, we definitely, you probably remember the bowling. A little bit differently than I do as far as like wins, losses on that side of it. But all having fun down the club bowling and friendly competition. So definitely a good, basis for us connecting. So
without a doubt. I mean, I was down there to throw strikes, drink beers, and win championships. I don't know about you, but I checked the box on all three.
Yeah, a little break. That's awesome. So that's good.
But, to pull it back a little bit, I think everybody knows the Duck, right? Everybody, it's one of the most recognized brands in America. But what most people don't realize or don't understand is what services are behind the Duck. And I think for the most part, I don't want to pigeonhole it, but for the most part, it's supplemental, fill in the gaps types of insurance. So for the people out there listening, I don't think they exactly, quite understand what it is. So could you talk a little bit about, supplemental insurance and, what exactly that means?
Yeah, so everybody's really familiar with the Duck, and, they do a phenomenal job with their branding. And, I think it's almost they set it up where they kind of get people intrigued about Aflac with the Duck and makes people laugh. But 5 seconds later, they have no idea what we actually do. So, it is up to us. It's our job to kind of connect the dots, with Aflac that does a phenomenal job in advertising and name brand recognition, to the nuts and bolts and everything is where we kick in, and more of the education aspect of it, letting people know how it could affect them on an individualized level. And even with a business owner, why is it important to, hear what Aflac has to offer a particular company and how that works. So, health insurance, healthcare marketplace is a very popular topic nowadays, and not all for good reasons. The healthcare landscape, deductibles are through the roof because the premiums keep on going up, and business owners are having challenges around keeping up with the raising costs. So the business owner is almost forced to offer their employees what is called high deductible plans, out of pocket, expenses skyrocketing nowadays. So Aflac kind of fills the gap there. So we work with localized businesses, find out what their particular needs are. Do they have a high deductible? Do they offer benefits as a whole? Kind of do a needs analysis with them and determine if it's something that's right for them. For a lot of times it is. We can find a need.
Not to interrupt, but with that high deductible, does Aflac offer a coverage that helps people with the deductible?
It does.
I mean, I think that's the big thing because, again, at the end of the day, a lot of people may not go to a doctor, may not go, to a visit that they need to go to in fear of having to pay that deductible.
100%. And that's one of the top causes of financial bankruptcy is medical bills.
Oh, yeah, that is literally the number one that I deal with all the time.
Mm-hmm. And, you work your whole life and it can be wiped away by one incident that happens that's out of that person's control. To have something in place that's extremely affordable, like Aflac, working, with a business, a company, to make it available to you, that in an event they get injured, they get sick, money goes directly deposited in their checking account where they can use that money however they see fit. So they can use it towards that deductible. They can use it towards the co-payments. They can use it however they want to. It's becoming increasingly popular because of those out-of-pocket medical expenses that people are forced to pay.
You would think right now, too, that it's going to be a popular topic with the rising cost of goods, inflation going on, the tariffs coming down the pipe. A lot more people are going to be minding their P's and Q's and budgeting a lot more and trying to understand where their dollars are going to go. So if they can save money in, any direction, why in the world wouldn't they do it?
Right. And I truly feel that Aflac is recession proof. So, or inflation proof, because the one common thing, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen. Somebody is going to get injured. Somebody is going to get sick. Somebody is going to have a child. That's where kind of we kick in, and we pay people and they can maintain their lifestyle.
I think it's funny. We say too that, the number one cause of bankruptcy is medical expenses, right? Well, and then we talk about health insurance, and, from the financial advising perspective, the conversation that I have with a lot of people all the time is, well, when can I retire? And one of the big decisions in that process, or reasons that they may work a little longer, is the ability to get Medicare at a certain age, right? So they don't want to be able to have to go into the open market, pick up their own health insurance because they wanted to retire early. So, a lot of people I see literally work longer than they really have to over that fear of not having health care.
Right.
So in my opinion, it seems like Aflac could be a pretty good supplement in regard to that can help them get to the point where, hey, you know what, I'm done doing this.
No, absolutely. And you give people projections on how much they need to retire, throughout the years. The variable that's not included in that, what if something happens? What if they get a serious injury? What if they get a serious illnesses? That kind of halts everything for them. So implementing something as small as a plan that an accident policy or a hospital plan or a cancer policy or critical illness plan can help that individual maintain your projection for them for retirement. So they don't have, that's a variable that they can cover with Aflac.
What are all the various coverages, the supplemental coverages that Aflac offers? And can you touch on each one of them?
Sure, absolutely. So first and foremost, I always mention a cancer policy, just because it's something very dear to my heart personally. So when I started with Aflac in 2002, it was in 2003 where my dad came to me and said, "Hey, we're getting Aflac through work. What policies do I need to pick up?" Well, I knew that he did stuff around the house. So I was like, accident policy is a no brainer. And we, cancer runs in our family. So I was like, you got to pick up the cancer policy for the family. Now, unfortunate situation, 2007, my mother gets diagnosed with breast cancer. Aflac was tremendous. I knew that I was doing right by individuals by offering the plan and filing claims for them. But when you're filing a claim with your own mother going through cancer, she had that policy, and Aflac ended up paying her a good amount of money in that first year of treatments, and that financially saved her. That saved, the house and everything. My father, and fast forward 2010, he was unfortunately diagnosed with lung cancer. He battled for 4 years. Aflac was there every step of the way, financially protecting them, while they were focused on, am I going to live? Aflac was financially protecting them throughout that process. So I'm a huge believer in that particular policy. Just puts a large sum of cash in a person's pocket going through a situation, so they can focus on what's most important is getting better instead of worrying about the financial obligations of going back to work prematurely. You know, I can't spend time with my loved one because I have to go back to work. That eased a lot of that. So first and foremost, I always mention that particular plan. Accident policy, by far, it's our most popular program. Covers individuals on or off the job 24/7, and it really pays for services rendered. So somebody seeks treatment, they're going to get $205 in their pocket. Then they basically put a price tag on a person's body part. Was this person receiving physical therapy? Did they get an MRI? 1,000. So it pays. The more hindrance and illness and injury is, the more that particular policy covers them.
So if you got something like that and you go to the emergency room and you got your deductible to pay,
yeah,
the minute you go there, you're going to get $205 to be able to offset some of the costs that you're going to get.
So the claims process is pretty simple. Like, you basically take a picture of your documentation from the emergency room visit, and if you signed up for direct deposit, you get within a couple days, you can get money direct deposit in your checking account.
That's fantastic.
Pretty awesome. So the accident policy is number one plan, and then the disability, that one is straight up is income protector. So if somebody gets injured, if they get sick, it's just designed to make sure that people have money coming in so they continue their car payment, their mortgage, their rent.
Would this stack on to a disability policy that is offered by your employer as well?
So a lot of times if an employer is offering short-term disability, that's a phenomenal benefit. You know, there's a good amount of business owners that do that. The challenge is with a business owner that offers short-term disability and pays for it, that if that individual files a claim, that benefit, that amount is taxed. So really, if somebody that's used to living off of, most people live off 110% of their pay, but a person that's used to living off 100% of their pay, that suddenly gets chopped down to 60% in disability, and even more, that 60% is taxed. So that's really closer to 45%. And a lot of times people can't live off of 45%. So they can use the Aflac disability plan to supplement that.
So the three main plans out there that we want to take away are the cancer, right? The accident.
Yep.
And then thirdly, the disability.
Right. So those are the three mainstays. We also have a critical illness plan that covers like heart attacks, strokes, those types of things. It works like the cancer policy. It pays a large sum of cash in a person going through a serious illness like that. Then we also cover a hospital plan. So if somebody were to be hospitalized, it pays them $1,000. So it goes right in line with gap coverage. So if you were to be hospitalized, accidents, illnesses, you know, we have a plan that'll pay up to $2,000 for a 24-hour stay.
What if you're in regard to like birth? You're going to be delivering a baby, right? You're going to be in the hospital for a day or two. Is that applicable, the hospital plan?
Absolutely. So when we had our boys, we used Aflac. So I'm not only, I represent Aflac, we've used it many times. So my wife went in the hospital. She was hospitalized for 2 days. My son actually had bilirubin, so he was extended 2 days longer. So Aflac and that policy alone paid us $3,000. And then the disability that my wife had also paid an additional $2,000 for her being off for 6 weeks. So combine the hospital plan, the disability, we got a nice chunk that allowed us to spend a little bit more time with our newborn, which was so important. You can't get that time back. And we do that for a lot of, parents and families.
I mean, it seems extremely important to have this, excuse me, because I know when I sit down for the estate planning process, we're going through everything. And one of the things that we typically want to have is an emergency fund. And this is the stuff, if you have this supplemental insurance, that probably wouldn't have you dip into your emergency fund if it was in place. And part of the dialogue that I have with a lot of people is you got to know your family history, right? Because genetics are powerful, right? So if you know that your mother had Alzheimer's and your grandmother had it, chances are, you got a pretty good chance of coming down with that. So why wouldn't you try to protect yourself with, some of the supplemental stuff? If your, family has heart issues, you need to know that stuff. So that's one of the things that we go through in the estate planning process, because I think it's paramount. You have to know, because you're 50% your mother, you're 50% your father. That's how the genetics pass down.
Right.
And you have, you look at them, that's what you're probably going to turn into.
Right.
So that's a great gauge, in my opinion, when it comes to putting insurance and supplemental insurance in place, knowing your family history.
Yeah, family history is a big thing. And, that's what, if it's something that concerns them, they've already been through it. They've had a sick parent that has went through cancer. They understand the financial costs that arise. But now we have environmental as well. So environmental, could be the food that you're eating, could be anything like that can cause that has changed since your parents were, growing up as well. So that could be a factor as well. So it's not just like, well, cancer's never ran in my family. It could be environmental nowadays too. So.
All right, Wayne. So now that everybody knows, some of the coverages and some, the types of products that you guys offer, I think a big question, for the audience or, the people listening is going to be, who has access to Aflac policies? Is it just through your employer, or could an individual come to you and say, hey, I want to get these types of coverages to protect me and my family?
No, we can actually do both. So we can go direct to consumer, and you can get it through your employer. So the advantages of both is you can just connect with direct to consumer. You can just connect with an agent and they can enroll you. The advantage of working through a business is that you're open up to all of our litany of programs. So people can get it on a direct basis. People cannot get a hospital plan. On a direct basis, people cannot get a short-term disability plan. So that all has to be worked through a company. Now, ideally, we would want to work with a company. So we work with companies anywhere as 3 employees up to our largest one just in Pennsylvania is UPMC. So they're their own healthcare provider, and they offer Aflac to their employees. So that really does say something. So working with a business, does not cost the company anything to make available to their employees. So they can make it completely employee funded. The advantage for both is an employer can make plans available at no cost. And the advantage for employee is they actually get the group rate, and it can be deducted from their paycheck. So the business owner would do a payroll deduction, and then they would have the coverage. Okay. So that's basically the advantages. So we can work with as far as like individuals and what people like to enroll into, typically anyone that relies on their paycheck. One of the biggest questions I ask, do you
live in paycheck to paycheck?
Right. Do you live paycheck to paycheck? And if that paycheck was suddenly taken away, what would that do to you? Mm-hmm. So anybody that has a cell phone, anybody that has to pay bills, they need to put that safety net underneath them in case something happens, the unexpected. So, but typically, folks that are on their own will be more inclined to look at the Aflac plan. Somebody that's anywhere from 21 to up until retirement, seems to be a target market of ours. So
a question for business owners out there like myself. So what if you have a hybrid business model where you have W-2 employees and you have 1099s? Are you able to offer this to the independent contractor aspect of your business, mm-hmm. or is it just for the W-2s?
So you can offer to either. I think the question would be asked is how they would collect the premium. Okay. Oh, okay. So we can do either. So if you run a particular payroll, it's very simple. Mm-hmm. If you run it through like 1099, it can be a little bit more challenging based upon, you don't want to chase down, independent contractors for premiums. So it's like, how would you draw that premium from those 1099s? So, sitting down with me, we can kind of talk through that on how that is. But ideally, working through a payroll company would be
could you
best.
could you and in like so you got 1099s that are independent contractors. They, for instance, work off of commissions. That type of contractor, could they just like front end load this, like say, oh, I'm getting this commission, I'm going to pay for a whole year and be done?
They could. I mean, that typically doesn't happen. It all depends upon what somebody's budget is on a month-to-month basis. So there's no like key advantage of front loading it for all at once. It's just, the biggest advantage is like they don't have to remember to pay it on a month-to-month basis, or, that doesn't come out each month. So there's no like financial advantage for lumping it all at once.
So to summarize what we just talked about, like the product offerings, right? Who has access to this? So you can correct me if I'm wrong here.
Mm-hmm.
If you're an individual and you have an agent that's going direct to consumer,
yep,
they have more of a limited offering, almost like an appetizer menu.
Right.
Right. But if your employer is offering it, you get more of a wide array, right? And you're going to get a group discount through your employer.
Yep.
So safe to assume that if you're a business owner out there and you don't have this type of coverage in place or this benefit for your employees, you should reach out to someone like Wayne himself, and have him do this, because it's no cost to you, but it's a value add to your employees. And that's a great thing for employee retention these days.
100%. It also helps employers attract employees. So, the two advantages, and we didn't discuss this earlier, but we offer dental and vision. So dental and vision is the second most requested benefit, nationwide, next to health insurance first. So putting that on a job board, putting that on a post can really draw that quality candidate in. And if an employer doesn't offer, if they're in a field like a restaurant, or they're in, a daycare or something where it's a challenge offering medical benefits. So this is a very affordable way that an employer can make this available to them. And still draw in those candidates, say, hey, we offer benefits. We offer maternity leave. We offer dental, vision, those types of policies.
Is dental and vision, is it offered directly through Aflac? So regardless of the dentist office or the optometrist that someone would go see, they would be able to use that coverage. And then are they supplying receipts to Aflac to get reimbursed, or is it, going to happen at the appointment, if you will?
So we have two types of dental plans. We have a network dental and vision. Those are available only through payroll. And we also offer a supplemental side of it. Now, the network dental vision obviously has a network that you have to follow. But if you don't follow that network, it's still extremely good coverage. There's a disparity of like 10% in payouts in that out of network plan. Now, the supplemental, they can go to any dentist that they want to. They can go to any vision, because it's more of a reimbursement. So it's one of the few plans that pays the dentist directly, and it's based upon the ADA code. It's a flat amount that it pays the dentist, not a percentage.
Okay. So
And
selfishly, I had LASIK like 20 something years ago. So I like sunglasses. I wear sunglasses quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the vision supplemental coverage. Like what does that look like?
So the vision plan, there's 3 separate options. It all based upon whenever they get their contacts, whenever they get their glasses. So there's one option that you can get a set amount just for getting your eyes checked.
Is it
once a year.
lenses, frames allowance? What,
Right there. So there's a frame allowance, and there's a frame allowance, and there's a contact allowance associated with that. And then there's also LASIKs that's built into the policy that they can pick up as well.
Because I like to take advantage of the frame, at least once a year, scooping up a new pair of sunglasses.
No, that's awesome.
For all you out there.
You got to draw that attention. So I get it.
I love your question that you talked about, that you asked people. And I think it's the most relevant question. Yeah. So where you said, are you living paycheck to paycheck?
Yeah.
I mean, literally, if the answer to that question is yes, then you'd be literally a fool not to have something like this, because one life's occurrence can literally do irreparable damage to your family.
But the way that I look at it with a business owner, if it's not necessarily about the people that they have now that are working for them. It's about the people that are going to be at that company for years to come. Something is going to happen. A cancer diagnosis, a critical illness plan that could hugely impact somebody going through a serious illness like that. So it's not just like when we meet with employers, they think about their current staff, and they should. But think about the bigger picture and about what if something happens like down the line, somebody gets a heart attack, they're going to have nothing, they're going to be, it could bankrupt them. So to have something in place, that employer looks like he's riding on a shining steel horse. Yeah, absolutely. Just by making it available to them. And we know who we work for. We work for the business owner. So obviously putting them in the best light that, hey, they didn't have to make these plans available to you. By them making this available to you, it protects you because they care about you. And that's the big thing.
Well, think about this just from an economic standpoint, or let's just think about the last 5 years. Okay. We've been through COVID.
Yep.
Right. We've been through an extremely fast paced moving interest rate environment in the wrong direction, right? Increased rates. So that means less spending power for people, right? Mm-hmm. We've been in a inflationary period where, again, let's talk about what everybody talks about. The price of eggs, eggs, $6-7 a dozen, crazy. So now, again, people have less spending power, right? Now we're about 6 to 8 weeks away from seeing the cost of goods throughout our country go up from tariffs, okay? That being said, over this last 5 years, has there been a trend that you've seen within the supplemental insurance market?
Yeah, I feel that the need has increased. With unsurety, people, going through COVID, they realize, hey, I'm not Superman. They can be susceptible to, an illness, that's always been there, but that kind of brought it to the light, going through a serious illness like that. Obviously people wanted that financial protection. But as far as like the trending and the unsurety of everything, that's kind of where Aflac does flourish, because, protecting yourself is the one thing that you can do. If, the cost goes wonky, the price of eggs, the price of milk, whatever the case may be, that there's always going to be need to, that peace of mind to protect themselves going through a situation that, you think is tough, covering eggs now. What if you were taken away from your work unexpectedly? Then it's going to put a real damage on it. So to cover yourself for, $10 a pay, $20 a pay, a lot of times people feel that that is very affordable for most individuals and families.
Well, I think it's crazy. So, I mean, when you're talking about insurance, you're required to have homeowners insurance, right? Or a bank won't lend you money, right? You got to have auto insurance or you can't drive your car,
right?
For the most part, you're required to have health insurance. Life insurance, supplemental insurance, it's a want to, not a have to.
Yeah.
Which I think is absolutely insane, because why in the world wouldn't you want to protect what you're doing every day, right? I go to work, I work for my family, right? I work to have things. The way my mind works is, why in the world wouldn't I want to protect what I'm giving up my time for?
Right.
And everybody gives up their time for a paycheck, right? You sacrifice hours of your life for a set amount of dollars. Why in the world wouldn't you protect that? You're not just protecting your assets, you're protecting your time.
And a lot of times it's not just the individual that, people think it's like, I can't make my car payment. What is that? What kind of impact does that have, across the board? Your kids rely on you, your spouse relies on you. So put in an extra like buffer, that safety net in the situation. So it's not necessarily for the individual going through it. The bigger picture is for the family, that ultimately if something happens to you, the breadwinner, it would be it would be a domino effect.
Well, I truly sympathize with the person that loses their job, right?
Yep.
That's an unforeseen circumstance, and you can't control that. But if you had, again, an emergency reserve fund, maybe you can withstand that. If your credit cards were paid down, you can use those to withstand that. Where I really feel for people is, like we were talking about earlier, when life happens,
Right.
that cancer diagnosis, the car accident that you didn't expect, right? Those are the kind of things that can lead to what you just said, the domino effect. And what I want people to understand is there's measures that you can put in place to protect yourself. And it is these types of insurances. And for the most part, they cost less than a dinner at Chick-fil-A for a family of 2 or 3.
Yeah.
They, some of the coverages cost less than a Frappuccino at Starbucks. So think about it, maybe just one Saturday or Sunday, you just drive by Starbucks and you don't need it, but you have a cancer policy that is literally going to save everything that you have in your bank account when you get the diagnosis that you didn't expect. So, I mean, it's just that simple.
Yeah.
So
We have a common saying, it's better to have it and not need it, and then need it and not have it when it comes down to it.
that's what, in estate planning, we prepare for the worst, but we hope for the best. Right. So it's twofold. And, in regard to what you do, I think it's very important. And it's part of the conversation that I have with every client that comes in from estate planning, because we have to know exactly where you are today, right? Yep. My job is to be your financial accountability partner, and accountability comes with protecting your 6. So again, if we're hoping for the best but preparing for the worst, it's my job to understand what your family looks like, what your family history looks like, and to be able to say, you know what, we're growing your wealth. We're putting together plan A, B, C. We're putting all these things together. It's a lot of hard work that we're going to do together. So wouldn't I be doing you a disservice if I didn't protect all that hard work?
Right.
So that's the things that I think are important, because I don't want it to be all for nothing.
I appreciate that. It's a great point. So, yeah, it's all about, I like how the phrase used, protecting your 6. That's what we do for individuals, families. We protect their 6.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Every day we're sitting there in the office and, my phone rings literally probably, 50, 70 times a day. And probably 30 to 36 of those times, it's a number that I don't even recognize. It's not even in my phone. Okay. Someone trying to sell you something, trying to give you a hard money loan. They're looking for Scotch Swinchock.
Yeah.
I don't even know who the hell that is, but I get that call every day. Right. So obviously we're talking to people every day in regard to what we offer, and we want to be able to help them. But in a day and age where you get nothing but spam, okay, what are, in regard to the supplemental insurance market, are there any red flags that people need to look for or be aware of? Because obviously with a company like Aflac, you're the creme de la creme, you're the top of the mountain, right? But nonetheless, there's a lot of inferior companies or scams that are out there, right? Where people are going to get phone calls and they may utilize or leverage your company's name and what you do to try to, rip someone off in regard to something. So is there any way that you can elaborate on, red flags that people need to look for in regard to this market?
In particular, I don't know if there's one red flag that you can take a look at. I'm very comfortable with the Aflac brand. I could work with, I could be appointed with many of my competitors. I'm very comfortable with, if I'm going to be able to explain a plan and that somebody is going to get paid for X, Y, and Z, that I know Aflac is going to back that up. So I'm very confident whenever I'm approaching an individual. So do your research is what I would say. What is best for yourself? Obviously what's in it for me is ultimately the question that you have to ask. And doing your research, is this a reputable company? Go to the reviews. Go search. There's so much information out there online.
So much misinformation.
So much misinformation, but also when you do your own research, they're gonna slam you with a lot of misinformation. But do your own research. Look up the agent that's contacting you on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and find out about that individual, that person. Aflac is built for paying claims and helping out individuals at the time of need. I think the biggest the variable that's involved with everything is the actual agent that you work with. Is that person experienced? Is that person care about the individuals that they're working with? So it might be you bringing that person in and doing, interviewing them on, their processes and what their ultimate motives are, to, find that right person.
Yeah, you're just not buying the coverage, you're buying the agent as well, right?
Yeah, because Aflac, I said, it's built for paying claims. Where it goes awry is like you have somebody, are they going to pick up their phone? I'm huge advocate of giving everybody my cell phone. I don't know if that's a great thing or or drives me crazy thing, but I think what's led to my longevity is my accessibility. So if somebody has a claim, I want to be there at the time of need. I want to be available whenever they need it the most. So I want to pick up that call.
It's a contact sport. What we do for a living is a contact sport. And what I mean by that is that if you're not contacting your clients or they don't have the ability to contact you, someone else will most certainly be contacting them and they will no longer be a client.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, how long has that agent been there?
Yeah.
Is this just a hobby for them, or is that something that, they've had that experience? And I know, somebody did give me a chance all those years ago that looked up I was with the company for, a couple months or, half a year. They gave me that chance, but, you don't know if that person is going to be there for the long haul, the long term. So, those are the kind of things that.
Well, that's actually a great point because within the just the insurance and financial advising industry, the attrition rate in business is 95%, which means 95 out of 100 people who get licensed eventually do not make a career of this.
Right.
So I think what we can pride ourselves on is we're the 5%.
Yeah. It's the great determination. And, just doing the right thing, just helping out clients. And that, if you take care of your clients, they're going to take care of you. And that's like kind of the golden rule in my book.
100%.
Yeah. So Scott, you've been in the business for a long time now. And obviously, you're in it for the right reasons, caring about the individuals that you're working with and protecting their livelihood, protecting their future. If you were to, kind of paint that picture and include supplemental or ancillary programs into your estate planning, how do you see that going? Where do you see supplemental being a fit for you?
I mean, at the end of the day, I think again, it's a want to, not a have to, right? It's got to be within the budget. So I think the important thing is just having the financial planning conversation with someone where we literally understand exactly where you are today, because I don't want to insure you for the sake of insuring you. There's a sweet spot that we need to be, but it has to fit within a budget. And at the end of the day, I mean, maybe it's us attacking some credit cards. Maybe you got a credit card that's 27.9%. And that's outlandish. But you don't know that, and you're making equal payments to 4 or 5 different credit cards. That might only be 15%. Let's attack the 27.9% one first, because if we pay that off, we may be able to increase your cash flow every month by $100. Now, all of a sudden, where you thought you were over budget, we can pick up supplemental coverages. So again, it's just having that conversation with someone, understanding exactly where they are today, what's important to them, because we're going to be able to go through everything like almost an a la carte menu. Here's all the things that you have access to. This is why they're important. This is what they protect you from. What fits your budget? What can we put in there? Because, I said it before, we're going to hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. And like you said, I hope you never need to use it. But if it is there, we have the ability to use it. And then you're going to, be extremely thankful when the day comes and you're getting a check striped.
Right.
So I'd say in regard to supplemental insurance, I'm going to talk to you about it, right? But again, it's a want to, not a have to. You control your business, right? Your financial advising. What I do for you is merely a guide, and I advise and I hold you accountable to what you say, right? But we're going to offer you the coverages,
Right.
and again, I know them all, okay? But again, you might have as a client to make tough decisions and say, you know what? I can't quite afford that cancer coverage. I can't afford the hospital coverage. I really understand that I need $500,000 or $1 million of term, but all that I can afford is $250,000. Those are the decisions that we're going to make together. But obviously, the longer we work together, the more that I get to know a client and, be able to look at their cash flow and their budget, we can improve that budget so that you can have all the necessary coverages that you need. And so to keep it short, I like to get wordy, but I think it's extremely important.
Right. And I think whenever you're faced with that illness or injury and you've done your estate, you do a phenomenal job with your estate planning. The unexpected variable that happens, illness, injury, having an unexpected, baby, that stuff happens. And the first thing that might go is, your retirement, not investing as much as you want to towards your retirement. So, somebody that is on the straight and narrow with investing and everything, and one thing happens, and then all of a sudden that's out of whack and they have to pull away from investing because, they're out of work and they have to cover, they clam up and, they need as much money as possible to pay the everyday bills. So I think that's, how we kind of work together on that side of it.
Well, I think what I want people to take away is this. If we work together, you're a client of mine and I'm your advisor or accountability partner, we're going to work really hard together to, in essence, achieve your goals. What's your happiness? And that's the first thing that we're going to do when we have a conversation. What are you trying to get to? What is your ideal retirement look like? The point that I make is there's a lot of hard work that's going to go into that, right? You're going to sacrifice buying things now to save for later so that you can live a good retirement, right? The crazy thing about life is the fact that one bad day on the road, one trip to the doctor where you get the diagnosis that you didn't expect to get, you come home, you find your spouse on the floor from a heart attack, right? Any one of those things that happen can literally eliminate all that hard work and change the trajectory of your life immediately.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be doing my job, nor you wouldn't be doing your job if we didn't at least have a conversation about the financial vehicles and instruments, i.e. supplemental insurance and other insurances that are available to people.
Right. 100%.
So again, life happens, and that's what I want you guys to realize. But there are measures that we can put in place that prevents it from being catastrophic. So no, I appreciate, Wayne stopping by today and being able to talk about this stuff. Supplemental insurance and all the services that they offer, I think, are extremely important. So I wanted to give Wayne a chance to let everybody know where they can contact him, where they can find him, get some more information. I had a great time, learned a little bit more, and that's all that I can ever ask. So
no, I appreciate you, having me on. You've been an important business partner of mine. If you want to reach me, you can go to my LinkedIn page, Wayne Uzarski. That's Uzarski. You can connect me on Facebook. You can connect with, you can go to the Aflac site and request me. So I'm very available, and you're going to be tagged in a link where you can connect with me as well.
Definitely appreciate that. But before we sign off, last question, I think the most important one too. The Geico Gecko.
Okay.
Lemu Emu, or the duck, the Aflac duck. Best mascot.
I think Aflac was the OG. I think it was the original. It was the one that everybody's trying to emulate, the emo most notably. So without a doubt, you have to go with the OG. The duck is up there on the pedestal. No doubts.
I mean, I would agree. It's the most recognizable thing. I still have my little fluffy duck.
The talking duck.
Yes.
Classic.
So no, hey, thanks everybody for, tuning into another Sink or Swin podcast, and look forward to more in the future. But again, thanks Wayne. And this is us signing off.
Yep. Thank you.